to Toledo, to the home of a Major Benjamin Stickney, where the people are, where they help people resist arrest and other altercations. And they kick in the door. Sheriff Hubble kicks in the door, and there's a little bit of a scuffle, and they wind up arresting a few of the Ohioans, including Major Stickney, and cart him back to Monroe.
How big of a militia or support group is he taking with him here? At
this point, it was, I believe that force was somewhere in the number of 30 to 40. These aren't big, and this is a very loosely organized, this isn't an organized militia with uniforms or anything like that. This is sort of one shade away from a mob with some guns and sticks going down there. So they get back, and of course this just starts to create more and more tensions, and Governor Robert Lucas of Ohio now starts to become more of a prominent figure in exerting his authority, and says, well, you know, we're gonna survey this line again, just to put a final exclamation point on this. And he sends the survey party out and warns them to be aware of these roving Michigan mobs. And on April 26th of 1835, a Michigan posse surprises the surveying group in what's been titled Mr. Phillips Field, and guns are pointed at each other. There's even a volley fired over some of the Ohioans' head.
Are they armed as well, do you think?
They are both armed, and they even had one of the letters states they were at a standoff, guns pointed at each other 8 rods apart.
Huh.
So again, no one is shot. One person claimed a musket ball went through his coat.
Huh.
So this war is marked by lots of bellicose talk, but not a lot of actual action. So again, some more Ohioans are captured, and this again furthers this animosity.
Where's this Phillips Field?
It's in Ohio. It's in the disputed area, and it became known as the Battle of Phillips Corners. Battle in quotation marks. So again, this just adds to the tension. We move on in this year. In May, Michigan continues enforcing the Pains and Penalties Act. In June, Governor Lucas goes to the Ohio legislature and asks them to appropriate $300,000 to raise a real militia, a real organized, uniformed, armed militia. And that, you know, that gets people pretty jumpy at that point. So then in July, with all these rumors swirling around and some more people violating the Pains and Penalties Act, the Deputy Sheriff Joseph Wood gets another posse of men to go down to Toledo, and again it's another Stickney that they're after. This time it's the son of Major Benjamin Stickney, and his name was Tu Stickney. He had the habit of naming his sons after numbers. So this was the second son, Tu Stickney, and they met up with him at the Davis Inn, and there was a scuffle, and Tu Stickney actually stabbed Joseph Wood. Now there's some controversy as to whether he was stabbed in his actual person and was wounded, or if he had an artificial limb. In the records I've seen, he was actually wounded. And he's the only casualty. At the time they thought he was mortally wounded, and he was the only known casualty or victim in this entire war. And one of the things I brought along was an affidavit from Justice of the Peace describing the entire altercation with Deputy Sheriff Joseph Wood. So it talks about how he was stabbed. He asked to be brought back to Monroe. There's some directions on what he should do if he should die, and so forth, and names his aggressor, etc. So this is a very interesting document. This one is dated the 16th of July, so the day after this scuffle took place at the Davis Inn, which was July 15th. So this is the day after, and we see this really interesting sequence of events here. So we have that on July 16th. On July 18th, Governor Mason issues an extradition form for Tu Stickney. Wants Governor Lucas to extradite him.
Send him over to Michigan
to
in the meantime, proper punishment.
Yeah, in the meantime, Tu Stickney's hightailed it to who knows where.
He's no longer in the disputed area.
He's no longer there. Of course, Governor Lucas ignores that extradition request. And then on the 20th, we have a letter to Governor Mason from Captain Griswold of the Detroit Rifle Corps. And I'd like to read just one sentence of this. It says, "Honorable Sir, should the crisis arrive in which it would be deemed necessary for the maintenance of our lives and protection of our citizens to require military aid from the arrogant encroachments of Ohio, please be pleased to accept my name on behalf of this measure." So,
he's volunteering for service.
He's volunteering his Detroit Rifle Corps for service to the arrogant encroachments of Ohio.
We laugh about it today, but they're pretty serious, weren't they? I mean, this was a serious matter.
They're very serious, and I think time has obviously diffused the intensity of this, but at the time,
to some degree,
yeah, we manifest it in other places, I think. So, but at the time, it was serious, and there was some lethal intent on both sides.
Governor Mason's letter has a seal on it.
It does. It has a territorial seal because we're not yet a state yet, which is very interesting, and the affidavit has the seal of. It's hard to see, but there's the seal of the county of Monroe, the territory. So.
Now, Governor Mason, he had been appointed by President Jackson, right?
He had, as a territorial governor.
Right, it's a territory, so the people don't elect the governor yet. He's appointed by President Jackson, and he's causing President Jackson some grief here.
He is, and in early August, the commissioners that Jackson had sent earlier in the year had suggested the compromise being have the line resurveyed, have the states hold the area jointly until Congress could settle the matter. Well, knowing full well that Ohio was a state and Michigan wasn't, that just was, the writing was on the wall that this was going to be Ohio's
Congress
territory.
would favor Ohio because Ohio was in Congress.
Right. So on August 17th, Michigan reconsidered and rejected that proposal. And then by August 29th, Jackson removed Stephen C. Mason from office, citing his overzealous defense of Michigan's rights.
He's doing his job.
He was doing his job. And him being removed left a vacancy in that office. So on September 15th, James Horner took office, and he immediately pardoned all the Ohioans that had been in prison under the Pains and Penalties Act, and he repealed that act, which, as you can imagine, was not very popular.
So he's appointed by President Jackson. This is his first action as we're getting out of this.
Clears house, which effectively ends the Toledo War. Now, what's interesting is he was put in office September 15th, 1835. All during this year, Michigan's been working on their writing their Constitution. And October 5th of 1835, it's put up for a vote and is ratified. And who did they elect as the new governor of the state of Michigan?
Stephen C. Mason. Is that at the same time? They voted at the same ballot at the same date?
Yeah, they voted for the legislature, ratified the Constitution, and elected the governor on the same day.
And U.S. senators, or?
I don't know. I don't have any evidence
Maybe
to that.
It was the legislature that elects them, so that must come later.
Right.
But okay.
Well,
so
we have two governors then for almost a year.
One appointed by the president, one elected by the people through what probably the president would say is an illegal vote at the time.
Correct.
The state constitution then, so it's 1835. Does it make a claim for this disputed territory? Is that part of?
It doesn't make a claim of that disputed territory in the actual text that I've ever seen, and that's why we were able to keep that Constitution, because it didn't have that
I see.
issue in it.
Because later that will become